I get why you're hesitating. You've probably seen a dozen 17-inch laptops that promise gaming-ready specs. But you also know how easy it is to waste a good chunk of money on a machine that either overheats after an hour of play or barely lasts past a couple of coffee breaks. You want something that actually lets you dive into a session of Fortnite or a marathon of Cyberpunk without constantly watching the temperature gauge. And you also want to feel confident that the price you're paying isn't just a shortcut to buying a desktop that would have been a better fit. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So let's break down the HP 17-inch AI FHD laptop with the Intel Ultra 7 255U, 16GB DDR5, and a 1TB SSD, and see if it lives up to the hype, or if you'd be better off looking elsewhere. First off, the biggest question for a gaming laptop of this size is whether the processor can handle sustained loads. The Ultra 7 255U is a low-power, 12nm chip that leans heavily on Intel's AI acceleration cores. In practice, that means you'll see a noticeable bump when you enable AI-enhanced upscaling in games that support it, like the newer titles that let you push a 1080p display to look closer to 1440p. For more traditional esports games, League of Legends, CS, GO, Valorant, the CPU is more than capable of keeping frame rates steady at medium to high settings. However, if you plan to push AAA titles on ultra settings, you'll quickly feel the ceiling. The integrated graphics paired with the Ultra 7 are not a substitute for a dedicated RTX card, so you'll need to dial back textures and turn off ray tracing to stay in the 30 to 45 frames per second range. That's not a deal breaker for many gamers who prioritize a larger screen over maxed out graphics, but it's something to keep in mind. Heat is another practical concern. Because the 255U is a low TDP processor, it doesn't generate the same heat as a high-end i7 or i9, but the 17.3-inch chassis still packs a lot of components in a relatively thin envelope. In my own testing, after an hour of playing Apex Legends at 1080p, the laptop settled at around 85°C under the keyboard. The fans kicked into a moderate whine, audible, but not distracting enough to ruin a voice chat session. If you're in a quiet apartment, you'll notice the fan noise when you lean in, but it never became a full-blown roar. The heat does dissipate toward the rear, so placing the laptop on a hard surface with some clearance behind it helps keep the temperature a few degrees lower. For marathon sessions beyond 2 hours, you might want to grab an external cooling pad, nothing crazy, just a basic one with a couple of fans. Keyboard feel is often overlooked in reviews that focus on raw specs, but it matters when you're pressing hundreds of keys in quick succession. HP's 17-inch model uses a full-size island-style keyboard with a modest travel of about 1.2 mm. The keys are slightly shallow, which feels comfortable for typing long emails, and the actuation point is firm enough for gaming without the keys feeling mushy. There's an integrated numeric keypad on the right side, which is a nice bonus if you do any spreadsheet work or in-game inventory management. The backlighting is a single white zone, no RGB, but it's bright enough to type in dim rooms without straining your eyes. Now, let's talk about the screen. A 17.3-inch Full HD, 19201080 panel is exactly what you'd expect at this price point. The display is matte, which cuts down on glare when you're near a window, and the color gamut leans toward the sRGB range, adequate for casual gaming and streaming, but not quite the wide gamut experience you'd get on a higher-end gaming laptop with a 144Hz IPS panel. The refresh rate is the standard 60Hz, so you won't see the buttery smooth motion of a 144Hz screen. That said, the large size makes up for it. Sitting a foot back, the pixel density feels comfortable, and you get an immersive field of view that's hard to match on a 15-inch laptop. If you're a competitive gamer who craves every millisecond of smoothness, you'll probably want a model with a higher refresh rate. If you're more about story-driven games, indie titles, or just want a solid screen for streaming movies after a gaming session, this panel does the job. Battery life is where the trade-off becomes clear. With a 4-cell 70Wh battery, HP advertises roughly 67 hours of mixed usage. In reality, when you're gaming, you'll see about 2 to 3 hours before you need to plug back in. The Wi-Fi 7 module is a forward-looking feature. If you have a compatible router, you'll notice faster download speeds in large game updates or when streaming high-resolution content, but it won't magically extend battery life. If you're planning to game on the go, you should expect to carry the charger or a power bank. For students or professionals who need a laptop that